Welcome to Youth Focus, Oakland's Future. I'm Katiba Alalefi, a senior at Life Academy High School.
And I'm Sanal Kabalan from Youth Radio, and I'm also a senior. Our guest today is Oakland Unified School District Superintendent Antwan Wilson. He joined us here in Oakland in July. Welcome, Mr. Wilson.
Thanks for having me.
So let's get started with our first question. It's from Maya.
Hi, Mr. Wilson. My name is Maya Rapier. I'm a senior at Oakland Tech, and I represent Real Hard. My question is, we know we have here in Oakland a shortage of teachers. Many teachers leave or choose not to work in Oakland because of their salary and lack of support. What are your plans to hire and retain more quality teachers? Thank you.
So first of all, thank you. What I would like to start with is just saying that the backbone of any successful organization is the people that are in the organization. And so for us, focusing on people and making sure that that is a cornerstone of our approach to improving the schools, that's going to be paramount for us. And that extends to all people, and most importantly, it extends to our teachers. The majority of our employees are going to be teachers. The individuals who are on the front lines making a difference for our students are teachers. And I actually started my career in education as a teacher. And so I know the impact that teachers can have on the work in schools. What I would say is that in terms of being able to move this work forward, I think it's important to ground the work in a different narrative of Oakland. And traditionally what I've heard people talk about is all the things that are wrong in Oakland. And I believe that we need to focus on the fact that there are a lot of great things in Oakland, and that it shouldn't be possible for just anyone to come here and teach in Oakland. It should be hard to teach here. And what I mean by that is not hard from the standpoint that the job is hard, but hard to get in. And any place worth being is competitive. And so I want to make sure that it happens, that we change the frame. The second component is once you begin to change the frame, you begin to change the narrative. And so I talk about the positives in Oakland. Once you begin to change the narratives, then you begin to think about what does it mean to provide quality working conditions that you can now recruit to, that you can then help people successfully transition into, thoughtfully place them in the right positions, matching their skills with the needs of the school, the subject that they're going to teach, and then that you can begin to evaluate, observe, support, and then help them along their career trajectory. I talk about all those things because it's all those things that lead to teachers not staying. And so the narrative often gets focused on pay. Pay is extremely important, but pay is normally the last reason why people choose to leave. People all over the country, including teachers, first choose to leave because they don't like their boss. They don't like their supervisor. They don't like the support that they've been provided. They don't feel that they've been put in position to be successful. So for us, in addition to working closely with our Oakland Education Association to improve pay and benefits for our employees, we want to make sure that we are providing the type of working conditions that are going to be conducive to keeping talented, effective teachers. And the overwhelming majority of teachers, overwhelming majority, are talented and effective, and we want them to be here. But we want to make sure that we do that in a way that does change the narrative and puts a focus on the benefits and the strengths of Oakland, the benefits and strengths of our students, and recognizes that it's a privilege to be here.
Dalia has our next question for you, Superintendent Wilson.
How you doing, Mr. Wilson?
Awesome, thank you.
I am Dalia Bill Johnson. I'm a graduate from Skyline High School, and I'm a part of the Town Researchers. For the past 7 years, the Town Researchers, they're the student research wing of the All City Council, and they've been gathering student voices on what students need to be prepared for college and career and community ready. My question to you, what support is given to prepare students to stay in college after graduating? And how will you plan to preserve the findings and student recommendations from all these years?
So thank you. You know, the foundation of the work that I've been focused on since I got into education has been focused on ensuring that students graduate prepared for success in post-secondary. It's the only reason I got involved, because for so much of it for me, I felt was based on luck, that it wasn't an intentional process that led to me being here. And I think that it should be a very intentional process in our country. And so all of that to say that we are in the process of updating our strategic plan. A major component of the strategic plan, in addition to making sure that we have efforts around people and talent and doing a great job with them, is around focusing on what we do to create a culture focused on post-secondary success. And so for me, it is about understanding the work that's already been done, which I know is going to be pretty straightforward. I mean, it's going to be things related to what we know happens is important all over the country. It's going to be related to engagement of young people, engagement of families, great teachers, exposure to rigorous course programs, support for students, counseling, all of those different types of things, student voice and engagement. We know that all of those things are important. And then those are components of what we want to make sure we are developing around. Now, I do want to go back to the fact that we can't do any of that without a focus on ensuring that the school is quality, and that by quality means that it's focused on ensuring that students are learning, and they're learning in an environment that's focused on their overall well-being, but setting a very clear expectation that you are here to learn. You are here to perform, and you're here to get yourself somewhere else, that this isn't the end. This isn't the greatest time of your life, that myth that people are saying to you. It's a fun time in your life. It's a great opportunity to propel you to the greatest times in your life. Now, the other part of your question is to ensure that students actually transition to college. And you know, I really appreciate that question, because it really gets to how do we ensure that students get to the success that we aspire them to attain. It starts with making sure that young people experience college rigor before they leave. Okay, so that's important. And a key component of what we're looking to implement, and I think that the Measure N vote and passage is going to assist us in accelerating that. But also we have pursued a number of other funding opportunities. So Atlantic Philanthropies funding a grant. Also, we have a grant through the 880 corridor with partnering with Peralta College System. We're partnering with the Cal system to make sure that we are creating structures in our district that allow students to leave high school with opportunities to earn college credit here. And the best thing that I can do to convince you that you can continue on to college is to say that you can continue because you've already been a college student and you've already been successful, and then help you through counseling, help you through the types of services that we know work, which is to hand you off to the next institution, to ensure that you do go on and continue to be successful. So there's a lot more there that we can talk about, and talk for hours on this, but and those are just a few things.
Okay. You'll recognize the next student because she sits on the school board. Here's Carmen.
Hello, my name is Carmen Jimenez. I'm a senior at Fremont High School, and I also work with All City Council. And my question is in regards to the previous youth forums, what have you been currently doing to address the issues that have been brought forth to your attention?
Thank you. And first, Carmen, I want to apologize. I didn't see you sitting there. I'm sorry. I would have said hello right off the bat. What I will say is this. First of all, I am extremely appreciative of the students who've come to the youth forum. It's something that I hope that the students will agree to continue to do over the course of the next several years. I think it's extremely important. And I also want to just say how much I appreciate the organizations that have supported that work. So there have been a number of things. I mean, you know, what I'm primarily hearing about are things related to supplies. So for instance, when I was at McClymonds, and students said a lot of things that they really loved about the school. And they talked about their courses and the fact that they loved photography, and they loved the fact that they had these AP courses. But when I asked them, well, what is it that could be better and student says, well, yeah, we have this really great photography class, we don't have cameras. And that floored me. And Carmen, if I remember, I think you were at that engagement. And then they also said, well, you know, we don't have books, AP books. Well, I can guarantee you that the people heard from me who were responsible for that, well, they heard from me that night. And then the next day, we had a cabinet engagement. All the senior leaders were there, and I made it very clear that I expected McClymonds students to get those things, and that we need to begin to figure it out. So that's just an example. I mean, similar examples have come up in other places when I've heard about food service issues, or I've heard about custodial issues. Now, some of the issues that need to be improved are systemic issues that have taken year over year over year, or decade over decade, to get to the way they are. And it won't be a matter of me coming in a week or even a year and having gotten that done. It's really about creating the type of structures that we need to create across the system, raising the expectation, working hard to change the narrative in the city, changing the level of belief that people believe that they should have around what is acceptable in terms of a quality education. And so I've been doing a lot of engagements around that, both with our central staff and partnering with people who believe that students should have access to quality schools, that teachers should have access to quality working environments, that leaders should be in position to assert their leadership in a positive way. So all of that has been a part of it. And you know, I've continued engagements with students outside of just those engagements. When I go into schools, I've had an opportunity to speak directly with students as well, and then try to follow up immediately with the people responsible, asking them to work on the things that we can address immediately, knowing that the larger things are things that we need to budget for and we need to plan for over the next several years.
I have the next question, Superintendent Wilson. As another student board member, I often hear that students from across the district are worried about the allocation of funds at their schools. My question is, what are the priorities in place when funding is allocated? And what are your plans to supervise how the local control funding formula funds and other unrestricted funds are in place and are allocated?
Thank you. So, you know, I think the focus on the allocation of funds, I have to believe, I can speak about me going forward, I will assume this was also true in the past. The focus is on leveraging the funds and maximizing the funds to the best of their ability to meet the needs of young people in their educations. I mean, that's the whole purpose of the revenue. And so that's my frame in terms of the work. Now, there is a finite amount of resources that we have, and there is a certain number of schools, and there's a certain economic climate that we have lived in the state for several years, and you longer than me. But we all are a part of it now, and what that means is that recession has impacted California at a rate that was disproportionate to the rest of the country, and it was bad for the rest of the country. And so all of that meant was that there were sacrifices that were made as funding shrunk, that showed up in very real ways for you as students. It meant less access to counselors. It meant less access to for some schools, resources, literature, other materials. And what we're doing is we're trying to engage in a process that allows us to begin to replace that. As funding in the state begins to come back to where it was, not where it should be for 2015, 2016, based on inflation from 08, but back to where it was back in 08. I mean, that's what we're being promised. And so we're thinking about that. What I would say is, in terms of the LCAP, what we are, the two primary goals that came out of the LCAP are related to quality school development and professional practice with people. And we are making sure that those are the top priorities. And so, for instance, the way we evaluate people centrally, those are the two top things they're evaluated on, is how they are focusing their work on improving the experience of our people, and creating conditions for quality schools, for schools to get better. I do believe that of the money that is allocated to schools, you want to provide as much flexibility as you can for decisions to be made closest to students. That's at the school level. So that, as you know, speaks to the school site council policy that we just recently passed, and making sure that we actually train up on that, so that schools are really doing a great job bringing in stakeholders. That includes students, by the way, so that's particularly at the high school level, parents, teachers, and using a very transparent way, opening up the books and using the voice of that collective to help determine where resources should be. Now, going forward, another piece that we are trying to figure out is how we provide more money to people, considering the fact that we still have a state trustee who must sign off on anything, and basically we are not like other districts, most other districts in the state, where we can make decisions and then just know that the accountability is the same as others. The state trustee must sign off and agree, and has veto power over any decisions we make. So we're looking to pay people more and then get more resources into schools that focus on quality school development. And by quality schools, it means rigorous courses, it means more electives and engagement. And I'll just stop there because I know that you're going to ask me a question around engagement later, and I'll just wait to address that there.
Thank you. And now we go to Nick.
Hello, Mr. Wilson. My name is Nicholas Gant. I'm a junior at Oakland Technical High School, and I work for the Media Enterprise Alliance. My question is, what are your plans to work with students to address the violence in our schools?
Thank you. So first of all, this question of violence is an extremely important one, because something that I strongly believe is that without order, you cannot have the education. If you are worried about what's going to happen, when you turn your head at school, then it's hard to concentrate and give your full attention. And so I want to make sure that I stress that. And one of the first things that I always did as a principal going into schools is address culture and establish very clear expectations and train folks that this is how we do things at our school, and we practice it. And people always thought I was crazy because in high school we don't need to practice, and what I find is you do need to practice, and that to teach students there's a reason why we walk on certain sides of the hallway. Because if someone steps on your brand new pair of shoes and they don't say I'm sorry, it's going to be a fight. And so all of that to say this, we are saying to our leaders, we are saying to the supervisors of our schools that you have to take the time and invest in culture at your schools. And that is a collaborative process. That is a process that must involve the teachers. That is a process that must involve the families. That is a process that must involve the students. And the greatest leverage around student voice is going to be at the school site, really coming together and talking about what culture looks like and how we elevate culture at the school site. And it really requires students to ask for it. And this is a little bit of, understanding that you can't have your cake and eat it too. And what I mean by that is this: the more structure there is early on in your experience in high school or in middle school, and the more there is an earned autonomy, meaning I come in and there's structure and I demonstrate the capacity to make decisions that are thoughtful and appropriate and constructive, so that by the time I'm a junior and a senior, I'm making a lot more choice and there's a lot less restriction on me, then the easier school will go. And what happens sometimes is you're a student and you're 14 and you say, man, I'm mature, and believe me, you are, but you're still 14 and you've not been in high school before. And how high school goes can go a long ways in determining life prospects or what things look like for you immediately after high school. So we can't risk turning things loose and providing a free-for-all. So I think that's one. I want to make sure that I stress that, and what I'm looking to do when we talk about quality school development is make sure where that order is not there, that we're working with school leaders to plan for thoughtful implementation of that order. And you're hearing saying to me now, so as school leaders doing it, begin to do it, you can be working with your colleagues to say, well, then that should involve us. And we should get to work with that leader to help think about what that looks like, how do we educate students around it, so on and so forth. Another thing that I am interested in doing, and I say it's an interest because it's not something that I can just decide on my own, it's a collaborative process. I am very much interested though into the security of our doors, the security of our buildings, and the presence of security, but then also the access of people in and out of schools. It's not as tight as I want it to be. That is not about preventing students from doing things and coming and going. In fact, we're wanting to see students have more access to opportunities outside of the school building. But it's about controlling the ease of access of individuals who we don't know their intentions for our students. It's about controlling their ease of access into our facilities, so that's a part of it as well. It's about providing more training to all of our personnel, Most people just think security. It's everyone around safety. It's around drills. It's around practice. It's around implementing restorative approaches into our schools, whether that's restorative justice specifically, whether that's positive behavior supports interventions that's culturally responsive, whether that's no-nonsense nurturing, whether that's manhood development courses. We want to make sure our schools have those programs, and it's part of an integrated process for ensuring safety. And then finally, I believe that one of the best ways to ensure safety in schools, and it's something that I employ personally as a principal, is to make sure that you're too busy to worry about anything else, and that you're actively engaged in your learning, and you have a reason to be there, and you're connected to something you want to do in the future. Because one of the things that I always used to say to students when they were off track and not doing what they're supposed to do, and you can do this with your colleague, what is it that you want to do when you're done? And they would say, well, I don't know. And I'd say, that's why you're doing what you're doing right now. Because if you did know, then you would be afraid to risk what you want to do by this behavior. And so what we're going to do is we're going to concentrate on helping you figure that out so that you have a reason to be bought in to the system and the culture that we're creating here at the school. And if we don't do that for students, why should they want to protect and maintain the culture that we're trying to create? So I want to make sure that you understand that it's a collective process and not something that we can, I can impose. It has to be done from the ground up.
And now with another question related to school violence, here's Ruby.
Hello, excuse me. Hello, Mr. Wilson. My name is Ruby Rosenberg. I go to Oakland Technical High School, and I'm also a part of the Media Enterprise Alliance. Excuse me. This year, you made it mandatory for students at several Oakland schools to wear their ID to school every day for safety reasons. However, this rule has mostly been ignored by a lot of students at Oakland Tech. So, you kind of already answered this, but what do you intend to do to improve security in Oakland schools, and could you give any specific examples?
So what I would say is, I think that that's similar to the last question, so I probably won't go as deep into that. So actually, I want to be clear. I didn't give a mandatory rule around IDs. Okay, I put forth the aspiration of where we're going. Okay, because once it's mandatory, you can believe me, I have systems to check. And then there are consequences for when you don't do it. So, and that's coming. So I want to be just forecasted as clear as I can do it. And then there's consequences for adults who don't take it seriously. We don't have the infrastructure that I want to mandate it this year. So that is the printing of badges. That is the system for replacing them when students really lose them, which is natural. That is making sure that we have the type of entrances in and out of our school building with the types of procedures that we need to have in every school to ensure that the access and entry and exit points of our school are controlled so that students with the appropriate badging as well as staff with the appropriate badging can get to and from where they need to get without hassle. So that's all coming, and as that comes, we tighten. Okay. The other piece is we have to have leadership who understands and we've supported in how to do that so that it's not a hassle, because it's really not about creating any type of police state where we're trying to look at badges. It's really about helping students understand that the more you can identify, and for me it's not about wearing a badge, it's about staff wearing the badges. Students, if schools want to choose that students wear them, that's a school decision. It's about students having their IDs on them, and adults knowing who belongs in that school and who does not belong in that school, and students being able to produce that ID. And that's what my expectation is. The school may choose to exceed that expectation by asking students to wear them, but certainly staff wears them, and then 9 times out of 10 when I'm in a school, I'm in mine. But we don't have the process to duplicate so that everyone has theirs. Once we get it, we will. But I'm going to take this liberty also to talk about student dress, because safety also speaks to student dress is also a part of it. And for me, it is not about that you have to come in a suit or anything like that. I believe in creativity in dress as much as possible. I believe in students expressing themselves as much as possible. But you are coming to a place of business. And I believe that all individuals need to come and look like they're ready to take care of business. And when that is not taught to our students, then we're not preparing them for the types of careers and type of opportunities that they say they want later. Because whatever industry you're in, there is a dress code. There are norms. And therefore, we need to teach students that when they come to school, there are norms. And what ends up happening is when we don't set those types of norms up and we begin to espouse that we have expectations at the school level, they create them and then they don't follow them. What it teaches us teaches all of us. So as a student, the same with me is, oh, there are rules to be broken here. And I can guarantee you that once you teach that lesson, that there are rules to be broken here, I guarantee you students will find the rule that you do care about. And then that's where the disproportionality happens. That's where the arguments happen. That's where students end up getting in trouble over little things that escalate into big things, because they can't see why you are making such a big deal about this when you didn't make a big deal about the other little thing that you said was important, that they recognize that you thought wasn't. And so safety, a lot of times people are thinking about these huge grandiose things. It really is about helping schools establish a culture of very clear, defined expectations that they teach, not just say. They teach and model and practice. They engage at the high school level students in developing role plays and scenarios to help students understand the rationale, theory of action behind, and then they actually enforce. And once you do that, you can have a safer environment. And then finally, it's about leveraging the student organizations that all of you talked about that you're a part of, and inviting them to be a part of creating the change that you want to see. And that's not my quote, that's Gandhi's, but I don't mind using it.
And to Malik for another question.
Hi, Mr. Superintendent Wilson. My name is Malik Smith. I am a senior at McClymonds High School, and I'm a part of the Oakland Youth Advisory Commission Board, and I have a question for you today. And my question is, what are your plans to ensure that schools give resources to for career opportunities for students? Have you identified possible collaborations?
So thank you, Malik, and it's good to see you again. What I would say is that the focus on college and career is extremely important part of increasing the graduation rate. Most people focus just on graduation, but as I mentioned earlier, if you're really going to get students to graduate, you actually have to connect graduation to aspirations after high school. And so that students really begin to connect why coming to school is going to pay off for them. It used to be that you could say graduating high school is going to lead to this really good job opportunity. Most of our students know that they can get a job without graduating high school, so we have to connect to the career. So that's one of the reasons why I'm really excited about Measure In, passing. Because Measure In, what that is about us being able to spend the time to work with schools to think about that career side. I am looking to scale up an academy structure so that by 2020, every freshman is in one. And 80% of every student, 80% of all students are in an academy. Now that's a different Oakland Unified School District than we have now. And then all of those academies should be programs that provide students opportunities to graduate high school with certifications or associate's degrees, at least a year of college done, and the opportunity to continue on and pursue a 4-year degree if they in that career field if they choose. And if they should choose not to continue in that career field, there should have been enough consistency across the academies in terms of rigorous expectations that what I did there would have prepared me to switch and do something else, because I got the math expectation, I got the reading and science and so on and so forth, that I can pursue what I need to pursue. So we're currently in the process of leveraging more connections with corporations, with outside businesses. We, in addition to Measure In, we have an investment via the Atlantic Philanthropies to support career academies and more development of those academies. I have met with the Peralta system. I've met with the University of California system. I have also met with Clorox. I've met with Kaiser. So we've been in a number of meetings, but I also hired a gentleman by the name of Bernard McCune. His position is Deputy Chief for Post-Secondary Readiness, it's college and career. And so he's been meeting with even more people than me, beginning to create those connections and the relationships. So the first part of it is building relationships, and then the second part of it is us beginning to try to create the conditions at the school level to engage in the type of work groups they need to engage in, to begin to submit up proposals for the new academies. And then some of the academies that exist will be going in and we'll be looking to give feedback as to the degree to which those academies have the type of rigor that we want in all academies. And if they don't, then we're actually going to be saying to schools, you need to re-envision and reimagine those academies. And then those partnerships that we're creating, and I mentioned some organizations, and there are others, I couldn't name them all. We want to make sure that we're connecting them to them. And so when I update the strategic plan and we have an announcement on the 19th, I'll be talking about the types of career fields that we want to pursue more opportunities in. It's not at the exclusion of others. It's just saying that we want to provide more opportunities in these areas because we know that they're trending in this area and then also across the country. And if students pursue them, they're going to have opportunities for employment, or actually maybe even to start their own businesses later in life. And so we don't want to just say, hey, go work for someone else. We want to say, if you want to have people come work for you, do that too. So we're interested in both. And I guess what I would say is it's a process. I wish I could tell you it's an immediate thing, but it's a relationship piece, because the corporations actually have to feel like we have something to offer too, and that we have an infrastructure that's going to last. I had a meeting on this very issue today with an organization that runs the Coliseums, and both for baseball and basketball, Oracle, as well as the football Coliseum, and we were talking about pursuing an opportunity at a pathway in the entertainment industry, and which includes both the music and movie industry, but also the athletic industry. Because what we were saying is, and trying to really, we want to help kids understand, is the more opportunities are behind the camera, are within the organization, and not just on the playing field. And so even if you pursue the playing field, what if one day you can be the general manager of the team, or you can be the accountant on the team, or you can be the owner of the team, or you can be the doctor for the team, or the actress, or whatever the case may be. We want students to understand that. So I was in a conversation just today with individuals affiliated there, but it's going to unfortunately not happen overnight. It's going to be, it really is a 5-year process to get it scaled up over the entire district the way we want.
And now we have a question from Sky.
Hi, my name is Sky. I'm from Oakland High. I'm with Californians for Justice. I was wondering, in your opinion, what is the adequate size classroom for every student to get support for their need, and what are your plans to reduce oversized classrooms?
Thank you. So I want to make sure that when we talk about this issue of class size, we have a contractual agreement around class size. And, I believe it is 32 students for one age range, the older students, and it's 27 for younger students. The issue around class size is one that gets a lot of play, and for me, it's important to me because it's important to others, and it matters from a culture standpoint, okay, to a lot of individuals. I don't have a number in terms of what's an adequate class size. I know people will point to various research. I do know that when you leave here and you go to college, you're most likely going to be in some classes that are large, and you're going to be expected to learn. And I know that people say, well, that's you sink or swim there, but that's an urban myth. Really good colleges help. They are judged by the fact that their students don't sink, that they actually come and they actually help support them to be successful. The same as schools at the secondary level and K-12 should do. And so for me, the class size is too large when an effective teacher cannot meet the needs of the students that they serve in a way that makes sense. Or when a teacher who is learning to grow in their effectiveness can't do that. And so then we need to begin to ask what additional resources or how do we need to structure the course and structure the class, the type of delivery model and education services to ensure that that can happen. And then finally, what I'm looking to do, quite frankly, is to reshape the conversation beyond just class size, because I'll be honest with you, there are classes that I walk into that where the student performance overall at the school is not where it needs to be, and they are small across the school. And if that were the magic, having small class sizes, that wouldn't be the case. And so what is it about? Well, it's about reshaping how students learn. What we know in terms of brain research is this: you're going to remember 10% of what I tell you. What that basically means is, since I've been sitting here just talking, you'll remember about 10% of it, average of you. I know that. You're going to remember around 30% of what I tell you and show you. So if I lecture to you, I don't care how large the class is. If I lecture to you and then show you some diagrams and pictures and all of that, on average, you'll remember about 30% of it. Okay? And you'll remember 70% of what you get to discuss deeply with others. You'll remember 90% of what you get to teach. And you'll remember about anywhere between 95 to 98% of what you get to express through artistic expression. That doesn't make any difference how large class is. Now, don't take that to run, oh, superintendent, he wants to have class sizes of 150. No, I do not. What I'm saying is that that argument, for me, is one of culture, in making sure that the class sizes are large enough so that the culture in the school can meet its objectives, that the vision of the school can be met. And there are different configurations. I walked into classrooms that are purposely set up to be larger. They have more adults in the room. They have different types of learning stations in the room, a lot of personalized learning going on, and they're great classrooms. I walked into other classrooms. They're intentionally set at 25 kids, and there's one adult in the room. They do all of those interactive types of things that I talked about in terms of student discussion, student projects, and they're great classrooms. So for me, it's about trying to make sure the culture and the pedagogy within the classroom is conducive to every student having an opportunity to learn, and then the support structures that we put in beyond the regular classroom to ensure that students who need additional help can get it. And then finally, that we don't use 19th and 20th century solutions to 21st century student needs, which means that the 19th century and 20th century students had to depend on coming to students to get information. How many of you have access to a smartphone? Almost every one of you have access to all the information your teachers have right now in your hands. And what we do is we perpetuate a model that says you need to come to me in order to learn, and I'm the teacher. What I'm saying is you don't. What you're coming to me for is to help deepen your learning, to help ensure that you actually master the material, and that I can help facilitate the learning process and ensure that you master it. You have a responsibility too, and I'm looking to create the types of opportunities that makes it clear to students, to parents, as well as supporting teachers in understanding that we all have a responsibility in ensuring students learn. And so that goes beyond class size. That goes to the structure of the way we set up the entire learning environment.
You did talk about this earlier, but I'd also like to ask you a question. In the balanced scorecard for 2014, although graduation rates are higher, less than 50% of high school students finish with the required college courses for California State University. And I was wondering what your plans were to get students to meet CSU standards.
So thank you. I will be short here. First and foremost, you got to raise graduation requirements. Graduation requirements need to be higher. Okay. It's hard for me to come in and support the idea that our graduation requirements are lower than the district that I left. They need to be higher. Students need to be taking 4 years of math. They need to take 4 years of an English language arts. They need to take 3 years of a lab science. They need to take 3 years of a social science. Students need to between 2 to 3 years of oral language. Actually, want to be proficient in a second language. And this is what we need to have, and we need to have some arts education in there. Okay, so this is what we know students need. And so, and this was one of the issues that came up in the student engagements. And McClymonds, I remember it wholeheartedly because I told several of those stories. And I had students tell me, someone should have made me take the right courses. And I agree with them, and that's what we intend to do.
The next question comes from Rajaya.
Hi, my name is Virginia Williams, and I go to San Leandro High School, and I'm part of Oakland Youth Commission. My question is, we learned from the past student forums that you believe strongly in the impact of sports and extracurricular activities of school can have on student performance in school and after school graduation. I have 2 questions. Can you speak about your plans, expand these opportunities, and how do you plan to fund them?
Thank you. So I do believe wholeheartedly in the importance of student engagement in school. And I think that starts, the engagement starts with compelling learning opportunities in the classroom, and I believe it extends to opportunities outside of the classroom. And so when you hear me talk about athletics and activities, it runs the spectrum, whether your thing is robotics or speech or debate or music or drama or art, whether it's cars or skateboards or whether it's actually football, basketball, or a traditional sport. We need to find it, and then we need to find a way to connect you to it. Why? Because when we do that, then we can expect things from you, and you have buy-in. That type of buy-in that we talked about that is extremely important. So we want to pursue it. One is by each year trying to add more money to that budget. So for instance, as we think about OAL, we got to add more money to the budget. It's about $700,000. Just to contrast, at a time where the rest of the country was lowering money to athletics, I led an effort in Denver to significantly increase money to athletics and activities. So the budget in Denver is between $4.5–5 million. And it didn't start there. It used to be a little over $1 million. So how did we do that? Well, one is we went out and tried to find partnerships. We talk it up. And so one of the things that I did is I talk it up, and we're talking it up now. Okay, and that's outside of the district and trying to find partners. And then 2, we begin to add dollars to it. And then 3, we have to have leaders who believe in it, who believe in the importance of engagement, and when they develop their schools, they develop their school plans with that in mind. And then you got to leverage student voice. Students have to say what they believe in and what they want. So it can be through student organizations, student youth organizations, leadership organizations. It doesn't have to be one of those things I mentioned. It could be this as well. If that's what gets you going, then that's what we got to create the space to have. And then finally, we got to have some type of compensation structure that supports teachers to be the club sponsors, to be the coaches, to be that. And then if there are outside individuals coming in, that we have the type of support structures to ensure that they're getting trained and all of that. And the individual that I mentioned earlier, Bernard McCune, he is leading that effort. And the training has already started. We've already moved the OAL athletic director from where he was, which was in, I believe, the supply division, centrally, because that's where his support is. And so we needed to make sure that we were there, that he was there, so that he's close to the support, so that the individuals who are actively engaged in understanding what's going on with athletics, the athletic perspective, can be there to understand what the issues are and all of that. And so he knows that it matters to us. How that's going. And then finally, when we talk to leaders about improving schools, which will begin to happen, we'll be asking about, so how are you thinking about this and addressing this in your school? Just to begin to improve it, to provide more.
Our next question is from Katori.
Hi, Superintendent Wilson. How are you doing today?
Excellent. Thank you.
Hi, so my name is Katori Goodman, and I'm a junior at Oakland Technical High School, Upper Campus, and I'm an intern at Youth Radio. And I take public transportation to school every day, and a lot of times I'm late to school, I'm late to school because I'm passed up by the bus. And I was wondering if you were planning on working with AC Transit to help this problem and to make sure that students like me aren't consistently late to school.
So thank you. So this is an issue that I'm just learning more about. I got to be honest with you. You know, I do come from places where there is some form of transportation provided by the district, at maybe even younger levels, and then there are relationships with public transportation to ensure that drop-off and delivery times allow students to get to school on time. So I'm starting to understand it. I do share your value and your interest in ensuring that students are getting to school on time, and so we're going to work hard to try to figure that out. It is a partnership, and so we want to pursue that. The other piece is I'm not opposed to pursuing district-sponsored transportation. Of course, it's a budget deal. We have to pay for it, so we have to find the money. And if there are some places where that is the right solution, then we'll pursue that too. So all options are on the table for me as it relates to increasing students' access to quality programs and getting them there on time. What year are you? You're a junior, so I hope I can get that done before you're a senior. I'm going to work hard at it, but you know, again, it's going to take a collaboration between us and AC Transit to move as fast as we'd like to.
Thank you, Superintendent. Danny has her question ready.
Good evening, Superintendent. My name is Danny Tarver, and I'm a junior at Oakland Technical High School, and I also work at Youth Radio. And I noticed that some teachers have to come out of pocket to purchase supplies for class, and some high schools don't even offer art classes like performing arts, visual arts, fine arts, etc. And I was wondering, what are your plans to provide or improve funding for this problem?
Thank you.
Thank you.
One of the things that I would say is that your question around improving funding and access for supplies, the preface to that, you mentioned teachers and what they do, and this is the thing about teachers and what they do all over the country is that they step up in ways that the average person doesn't truly understand. And what you're describing, teachers in Oakland are doing all over the city in terms of stepping up. And it's happening in other parts of the country, many parts of the country, but in Oakland in ways that I think are heroic and definitely appreciated. This is a city problem. And you know, I think I've heard people come in and say, what am I going to do about it? Well, I'm going to turn that right back on the city, right back on the entire public. What are we going to do about it? And as we announce our strategic plan, I know what I want to do. So I want to provide every student access to the supplies that they need. I want to make sure that students have access to technology that they need to have to do the research you got to do in a timely manner, that you don't have to wait on those things. I want to make sure that you have access to the teachers that you need. So then I'm going to put that question right back out to the public and say, this is what we need to solve for. And these are the things that we're unwilling to compromise. So instead of telling me what you don't like and what you don't want, come together and be a part of helping us identify the ways that we close that gap. And we need to put everything on the table, because when you try to have everything, what happens is you end up getting nothing. You sacrifice things that you must have in order to reach excellence, in order to give everyone a little. And we're going to have to give some things up in order to create the types of schools that we want for every student. And I'm going to force that conversation and then really ask the city to deliver and give some non-negotiables about some of those things that we need to have more access to, some things that we know every student should deserve, so that teachers are not having to come out of their pocket as a requirement, but they're doing it because, again, I think that Oakland teachers step up in ways that are to be rewarded and commended, and if they're doing that, we want it to be because that's just who in their nature, not because they had no other option.
And to Manera with her next question.
Hi, Superintendent Wilson. My name is Manera Harris. I'm a member of the Oakland Youth Commission, and I'm a junior at Oakland Tech. So the low number of students of color in AP classes is a major issue for OUSD. How do you plan to support students of color so that they can be accepted into and subsequently succeed in AP classes?
Thank you. So I can't tell you how much I appreciate that question, because it goes back to an early question that I also appreciated around the post-secondary piece and preparing students for success after they leave high school. It's all connected. And so first of all, it's about raising expectations up and down the system. And so we want students from the moment they enter school to understand that there is an academic expectation that we have of you, as well as a social one. We want parents to understand that there's a role that we expect them to play, or guardians, who's ever in the student's life. There's a role we expect them to play. Now, those roles are pretty straightforward. That is, make sure that we are asking students about their work, asking them about their day, and making it clear to them that you just expect them to do well. Even if you don't understand it, our families bring great strengths and they can do that. And just talking to our students, we know that that's important, and we want to provide resources to do that. Now, this is how that fits in to your question. The more that infrastructure is set in up and down the system, the more students enter high school prepared to take rigorous courses. Because remember those graduation requirements that I said need to be accelerated? The apex level for all of that is advanced placement and dual enrollment courses. And we want to make sure that it's college-bearing courses. And we need to make sure that that infrastructure is there. And then finally, we need to have real conversations around what it means to actually be accepted in AP, because the College Board doesn't have those expectations. And the College Board happens to be the organization that puts out AP. And so many of those structures were put in order to keep kids out. And I just like to tell the truth. And you say, well, people say, well, how do you know, or what gives you the expertise in it? Well, I just so happened to left the district where we were on the AP honor roll for the last 2 years, a predominantly district of students of color. That when we started there, and I would say we, but when I started in my position, the majority of students taking AP classes did not reflect the population of the district, and now it does. And what gets you an AP honor roll is that you increased access and you increase scores. And we did both. The other piece is the research is quite clear that even if the student doesn't get the 3, 4, or 5, they are better off in terms of being prepared for post-secondary education from being in the class. And so we think that's important. Now, to support our teachers. The teachers in the class can't be in there convincing students that you need to turn in your work. They can't be in there convincing students that you need to pay attention. And so that's why the rigor before you get there is important, and making sure that those expectations are there. So we're going to do that. And so we want to make sure that we are putting more support into training of our teachers, setting common expectations across the district in terms of what it means to teach a particular AP course, in terms of what the syllabi should be, and aligning that with the College Board standard and what they're saying. Because there's no, and then coming up with common supports for advanced placement and dual enrollment courses, and then also setting up some bridge programs. So if you're a student and you're in middle school and you're interested in pursuing that, what does pre-AP look like? And how do we get you involved in that while you're in middle school? And then what is the summer preparation program? And then for our students who are accelerated, I had students in Denver taking AP Human Geography. That was their 9th grade course. Because we're going to, if you're ready now, we need you now. And there's a test, the PSAT, you're familiar with the PSAT? There's a component of the PSAT, it's called the AP Potential. And it gives us a list by school, every student who takes it, who's ready for that course. And what happens across the nation is the students who are being offered the course doesn't match up with what the data says students are ready. And there are a lot more students of color who are ready than are being given an opportunity, and we want to make sure that we match it up. And so how do you do that? You got to talk directly with the students. And I'd come to you and say, and I'm going to say but it's counselors. We need more counselors in our schools. We're working on that. And an adult comes to you and says to you and your parent, did you know that you have the skills to be successful in this course? The data is clear. And to make sure that's clear, first give you the option, and then when you don't take it, require you to do it anyway, because we shouldn't be allowing you to take courses that are easier than your ability. The choice should be, which of the more difficult courses do you want to take? Okay, and that's where your choice comes in. But the idea that I'm going to take it easier, we can't say that we want college. Again, remember I said can't have your cake and eat it too? Can't say we want college, we can't say we want career, and then say I'm going to take it easy my senior year. No. You're going to work hard your senior year so that you're ready for your freshman year.
A few more questions, Superintendent. Here's one from Mac.
Hello, Mr. Superintendent. My name is Mac McGee. I'm a senior at Gateway to College, and I'm a member of the Real Heart organization. First off, I want to say I'm really excited to see the results from your planned culture shift. I can't wait to see what that's going to look like. So the OUSD is very diverse in terms of its demographic, and that's something that I find very unique about it. My question for you, though, is given the level of gentrification that's been taking place in Oakland over the recent years, how do you plan to maintain a diverse demographic while improving the quality of our schools?
Thank you. Thank you. I'll be brief here too, because I think it really is about partnering with the city, and really trying to make sure the city recognizes the value that Oakland has in having the diversity that it has. I came from a city that was diverse. I mean, most folks know, Denver is a majority minority city, but when you come to Oakland, this is what drew me here. I mean, I just came here and I spent time and I was like, oh, wow. I mean, this is something else in terms of what you get here. And this is a true benefit. And if once we unleash this, then we'll be able to show everyone what's possible. I mean, once we do it, then what excuses any other city has? So it's a partnership with the city around that is what I would say on that. And then in terms of our schools, it's trying to create some structures in our schools that put quality in, that maybe would entice parents to travel, or maybe even stay in their neighborhood, so that we can have some more heterogeneous based schools.
All right, thank you. And now to Lucas.
Thanks. Hi, Mr. Wilson. My name is Lucas Cota, and I go to CCPA. My organization is the Town Researchers, and my question is, in your opinion, what is the root cause behind this investment of staff supporting students of color to go to college?
So what is the root cause behind the disinvestment of staff support? You know, I think that, so first of all, let me say this. Thank you for your question. The question around disinvestment of staff support really goes back to historical. Now, you be careful, you guys don't know, I'm a social scientist, and so major history, social science, women's studies, minority studies, and then I only added education after the fact, so double major, double minor for me. All of that to say that you just asked a question right up in my alley. It has historical context. Okay, the system, in short, was not set up to ensure that kids of color graduated and were prepared for college. And so many times people look at that and say, well, it's about what people are trying to purposely prevent. Well, the system was not set up that way. You say, how is it? I'll just give you one simple reason. One simple thing that all of you can point to. The system is set up to benefit individuals who have more economic advantage. Why? Well, how do you know that? Well, think about the things that it cost, even the AP classes that you're talking about. They take the exam, you got to pay for it. Well, you have certain groups of people who are disproportionately represented in lower incomes. Those tend to be higher groups of people of color. And so you have a system, regardless of how people feel about it, that's true. Second, you have individuals who have biases they don't know they have. And it's perpetuated by society and what we say. So I'll give you an example. Have any of you ever heard the statistic, the more African American males in the criminal justice system in jail than there are in college? It was never true. Ever. Really? Ever. True. There have always been more African American males who've gone to college in the criminal justice system, as there is now. There are more African American males in college. It's about 1.4 million in college and about 750 to 800,000 in jail or in the criminal justice system. Now, why is it that people believe that? Because it's been said over and over and over, and people talk about it negative. Talk about it from a negative perspective, and people come to believe it. Well, now let me give you an Oakland context. You hear about African American male suspensions. I have talked to African American male students, and they say to me, well, I'm breaking the norm. I've never been suspended. Well, in fact, you are the norm. Because when this started, and it was an issue, there's disproportionality in suspensions, and we got to be able to call that out without making it sound like the majority of African American males get in trouble. Because when it started, 75% of African American males never got suspended. 77%, excuse me. Now that number's up to 87%. So in fact, 9 out of every 10 African American males never get suspended in any year. But we allow a narrative that perpetuates the stereotype that the majority of African American males get suspended. So how do you think the average person's going to respond when they see a student who is loud, who's just laughing and joking, and maybe expressing an anger that any other person would express with similar frustrations? But I've been led to believe that this student is likely to get in trouble, likely to cause a problem and be violent, when that's far from that student's mind. And I can tell you I experienced this personally as a student, watching my teachers take the long way around hallways and saying that I somehow was going to be violent. And I can tell you I couldn't be violent. My mom would have killed me. But I'm big, I'm African American, I'm male, I have a serious look on my face, I don't laugh a lot when I was in school and all of that type of thing. And so I saw that. So what we have to do is we have to set a very clear expectation for every student that we expect you to be successful. We need to talk about it from the standpoint of how we want to increase the number of African American males who've never received a suspension. That's the way we need to talk about that. We need to talk about that we want to increase the number of African American males and females, or Latino males and females, ELL students, special ed students who attend college. We need to talk about what we expect in terms of the percentage of students we expect to see graduate, how we increase that. Talk about it from the standpoint that there are examples of you being successful and we're looking to grow that. And then provide the training to our staff, provide training to our students who can lead in this regard, our parents, to help them understand you have great assets that you bring. And it's not that we're trying to fix you when we ask you to pull up your pants. If you choose to wear your pants the way you choose to wear them when you want to wear them, that's your business. We're trying to prepare you for a culture that you're going to have to operate in, that is going to have a negative belief about you when they see you come a certain way, and you're going to be excluded whether you like it or not, because there are certain rules at play that you don't know are impacting you, and it doesn't make any difference if you like it or if it's right, it is true. And we have to begin to help students understand how to code switch and play those games. Just as Jay-Z is doing, trust me, he didn't make $500 million because he's walking in with saggy pants. Just as Kanye West does, trust me, he smiles in the boardroom when they give him his check. I'm just being real. And so I say that to you because it also plays out in our schools, that that's the type of work that we want to do. We need to create the expectations. So what you're going to hear me clearly say is this. I expect every student to go to a post-secondary institution. It doesn't make any difference to me if you go to a 4-year school, a 2-year school, a 1-year certificated program where you get it through military service, where you get it through your employer. I expect you to go. But I'm going to prepare you, and we're going to work hard to create a system that prepares you for a 4-year school so that you have a choice. And if you choose not to go there, then that's your business. Okay? And that's the way we're going to do that. Why? Because then I can train up to that expectation. And then I can begin to remove excuses. And the bracelet I wear quite simply says success for all, no excuses. And that means that we have to find a way to figure it out. And I wish it was like flipping on a light switch, but unfortunately it takes multiple years. But hopefully what you hear in me is a passion around this issue, because it's one that I speak from with great determination, because I was told by many what I could not do and what I would not be. And it was great that I was able to go back to my alma mater and be some of their bosses.
Thank you, Superintendent Wilson, for your passionate answers. Unfortunately, we have run out of time, but we would like the last 4 panelists to share their question.
Hello, Mr. Superintendent. My name is Eleanor Good, and I'm from the Oakland Youth Advisory Commission. I would like to ask you at a later time about the availability of guidance counselors in OUSD.
Hi, my name's Stephanie Vega. I go to Castlemont High School, and I'm part of Teens on Target. And my question for today was, what were your plans to increase safety for students en route to and from school, and also on school sites?
All right, Mr. Wilson. So my name is Luis Ramirez, and I attend Castlemont High School, and I'm representing Youth Together. And at a later time, I would like to ask you about, like, how would you let the students know the different roles between admin and district people? So, yeah.
Hi, Antwan Wilson. My name is Nautica Williams. I'm a 10th grader at Oakland High, and I'm also from Californians for Justice. And at a later time, I would like to discuss about off-campus lunch with you. Thank you.
Superintendent Wilson, believe it or not, that's it for our questions. Thank you so much for spending our time with us and addressing our concerns, and I hope for this to be one of many meetings with you.
Absolutely, I enjoyed it. Thanks for having me.
A big thanks to the youth organizations who have come together for the Youth Focus, All City Council, Youth Radio, the Oakland Youth Commission, Media Enterprise Alliance, Youth Uprising, Oakland for Kids First, Real Hard, the Town Researchers, Californians for Justice, Youth Together, and Youth Alive, and Teens on Target. Thank you so much.
And finally, thank you to all of you out there watching on Youth Focus, Oakland's Future. We give the power to the students and let them ask the tough questions. Listen to the youth. We have ideas, we have voices, and we have hope.